So.
Okay, we can see it clearly. Okay. I can see it, yeah.
Okay, great. So guys, welcome to the meeting of the Invisible College of Pacifismology. Today is 13th of August. And I prepared just some topics. And of course, if you have another topic, then we just add it to this agenda, so to say. In the beginning, okay, I think I can do this very short because we all attended in this visiting Geneva, right? But maybe it's just a good, a good idea to remember, and I think maybe we can also reflect a bit on our visit there, because now I think it's 14 days, right? Is that right? Or
yes.
Yes, yeah. And maybe we can just reflect a bit on it. Yes, what I found, I don't know if I told you that this picture on the right side, did you see where I took it? It's a map. It's in the main station of Geneva, and I found it interesting because here the Switzerland has this peace stuff, right? So for neutrality and so on. So I found this interesting when I was standing there and saw that. So I took this picture. And yes, of course, the United Nations. And I just put this together and just, for me, it was a very interesting trip, of course, together with you guys. And what I liked really a lot was, of course, the how can I say, the ambient? Is that right? The lake
environment.
Yes, the lake of Geneva. It was really beautiful, and as you can see, the weather was also fine, and I was also impressed by the building of the United Nations, and of course. There are a lot of buildings from several institutions, and I just put together some pictures here. And maybe I would be interested if you guys also want to share some perceptions or anything you could perceive there. Maybe it's interesting also for the other people that will see the recording later on.
Yeah, for me, it was a very special trip, since I planned since years to go to Geneva, but then also intraphysical worries I had about the financial situation to go there and spend, because it's one of the richest but also most expensive cities of the world. But I'm really glad that we could do that. Could do that to realize to do the trip as a group. I think we were 9 on one day. We were 9, I think, when we visited. And for me, the highlight was when we entered into the building of the League of Nations, which is today one of the UN buildings. And so this is also what always caught my attention when I saw it in TV. Sometimes, you know, this building, it was always very impacting to me to see it. And I always was thinking, oh, I have to go there, I have to enter this building. And I was not disappointed when we went there. Really, from the energy, I sensed very subtle energy, very peaceful energy, and I had the impression that I could connect to the Equipax, which is the name which we gave informally to the extra physical team of helpers which work especially for Pacifismology. And so for me, besides the good weather, the environment, the intermissive friends together, and everything went so smoothly. Besides of this, I sensed that the energies were very positive, and still today, when I close my eyes and I look back mentally, a lot of very nice images come to my mental screen. So I like to remember, and I like to still take advantage of this like an energy link. I sense that the more I remember, the more I feel the energy link to that place, and it goes in alignment with my previous study of peace places, where I went, which we already studied in this college in other moments. That once you have entered such a extra-physical prepared environment for peace study, and you are an intermissivist, and you prepared to download some of these bigger cons, which I for Pacifismology, and then you go out and you are a little bit different that you entered, and you will not lose this difference. You learned something, you enriched yourself, something intraconscientiously for me changes every time I go to such a place. I cannot put it in words. I don't know how to communicate it, but I'm so convinced and I feel so sure about this relative truth for me, personally experienced, that it motivates me always more and more to go to such places like the UN or like the Peace Palace or other places of peace or union like European Parliament, because I think as intermissivists, when we enter these intraphysical places, we connect to an extraphysical team and gain something or earn something out of it. That's my hypothesis. So this is why I always like to go in group with other persons in order to help those people, other intermissivists, to confirm my hypothesis. I want to be confirmed, not refuted. A very anti-scientific attitude, but I'm so convinced of my hypothesis that I say, no, I want other people that they experience the same thing. Mm-hmm. So my psychosoma takes part in this okay. Research. Uh-huh. So that's it.
Yeah. What caught my attention is that Yatra, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. My experience, it was big, so great, so intensive, because I have for a long time with Eduardo together spoken about how we can work with the energy when you are visiting some place like this, yeah. And I didn't know about this, and then for me it's the first time that I could experience so intensive. Connect with extra-physical beings and with holothusin.
Holothusin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, holothusin from these places and it's more expressive and intensive. I couldn't imagine it, how big this experience could be. And then for me, it's really a big moment. A very, very grateful experience. And the most, the highlights moment, it was in front of the Sérgio Vieira de Melo statue, you know? There it was something, so, what is happening? And I saw the faces from each of us, everyone has changed. You see, I feel the energy so intensive. It's really great, really great. This is also with this experience, I think the next one could be better, because when you ignore when you don't know how you can do the way you must connect with the people, with the extra-physical group, and things like this is very different. So I think we must to put a write down a new course, learn the people to visit this place. with these information because it's so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I think not a lot of people know about this, all this information. How you think about what you think about?
Yes, I also found this statues very impressive, or the energy around it, and it's a bit difficult to describe, right? So it's something where I still like words in order to describe the perceptions really in an accurate way, so to speak. And I experienced it similar like you described, Yatra, and I also could perceive that you were also very, how can I say, not impressed. Impressed would be maybe the wrong word, but that you really were impacted by it. Let put me that way, right? And I think that this is a very interesting thing. For me, it was a place where it was really, I felt a kind of serenity when I was there. I don't have a picture here, but I think a picture could not really transport that in terms of energy. Okay, sometimes you can connect via a photograph, for example. Sometimes that works quite well for me, but I think maybe if you were not there, it might be difficult for a person just from seeing a picture. But I don't know if that is true, because sometimes I see a picture and I have an impact in the first moment, not knowing why, right? I don't know, maybe it could be an idea that this has to do with something that we saw beforehand, maybe something that we somehow remember from intermissive course, or I don't know exactly. But for me, it was really a very serene energy there, because maybe because that was the place where he also worked, right, and was really active doing his work and so on. So yeah, I think every one of us were a bit in a kind of energetic bubble. At least this was what I felt. And yeah, this is really, really interesting, this point of energy you mentioned. What caught my attention also when we had this this tour in this building here was the logo of the United Nations. Of course, I saw it several times before, but what I found interesting, or what called my attention, was the explanation our guide gave, that this is a view on the planet, on the globe, on the nations, from a point of view expressing that the United Nations do not have any focus on a special country, so that they try really hard to not taking sides for any country, having in mind or in their focus the well-being of all nations. And this is something that really had a special impact, although I saw the logo several times before, of course. And now I think about it, I'm planning to do an education starting this autumn or this fall, I think you say, connected to mediation. And I think this is exactly the attitude you need to have as a mediator, that you're not taking sides, but that you're really neutral in between several parties or whatever it is. So this is what, how can I say, that worked afterwards in me, let's put it that way. What also caught my attention was this ceiling here. I found, besides it's very colorful and beautiful, but I found it interesting, the idea that they thought about in such a meeting room or meeting for conferences, that they put something that is taken from nature, the idea taken from nature, just to remind really the people debating in this room, to remind them that the environment is very important, and that they should beware of it, and that every decision they make has an impact on that. So I found that was very interesting, like a kind of, I don't know, mental saturation maybe, or just something to remember people that this, what is discussed here, really makes a difference, right? And always having that in mind. So I found that very nice idea. And the next thing was the Museum of the Red Cross, or let me see, I don't know how to say Roter Halbmond in English. I think I have it on the next page. So there's this museum also in Geneva, and maybe you can watch it later. I found a short video. What I found was very interesting, because it summarizes the idea, how the idea developed, building this organization, the Red Cross. And I found that a nice summary, if you never thought about it, or if you have no idea, just to summarize it and just link to the website of the museum, because I think it shows really the exposition that is shown there. And I think they have a really good website explaining what was the intention, and also illustrating with more pictures like I have here. And what I also liked was the idea here with some people of the group showing here their solidarity in a symbolical way with those who could not stand up with their own voice for their human rights, for their dignity. So I found this a very great idea. And I found another video, maybe also for later, of course. And what I took out from that was these, how can I say, these hashtags or these keywords related to the idea of the Red Cross and Red Crescent, right? And I found there are really similar ideas to what we have. For example, the voluntary character, of course, humanity, universality, they say, neutrality. So I found that it's very interesting that all of that is here, that was in place. And maybe you want to share your impressions. Was there something that called your attention in this building, or in that time we were there? Do you have anything special that you want to bring up?
What and not especially in the building, but before, when I studied a little bit the personality of the person, Henry Dumont, I think is his, or Dunant is his name, that he started like in 850 or 60 or something like that. So he was totally not mainstream. Like at that time, the mainstream was that war is something for heroes, and that you should applaud it, and so on. And so he was the first person who wanted to really set up a holocene of diminishing the effects of the war, and who put an energy into the communication that war is nothing good. And afterwards, a lot of peace unions or peace association, like Bertha von Suttner and others, came up. But he was like a self-made man in this aspect. And if you see today what today is the Red Cross, And what was done in these 160 years since then, and the mother thought scene of this personality is still there, then I think you can understand about evolutionary level, about how an extra-physical big team works sometimes with one sole person, and so on. And this is so surprising for me, and I think the museum is so interactive and nice. It does not put the personality in front. What I was expecting, you know, the whole history and it did not. And I think this is right, because I think for this person today, he doesn't mind if people study his biography or not. He just wants that his work goes on a big level and so on. So for me, this was very interesting to that the work of him is more than like the personality, admiration, and that they put it in this way into the museum. And this for me is a hint that the evolutionary level of such a person is very high. But it's a hypothesis.
What I think, maybe one can say it in general, that an organization or a movement, let's put it this way, because in the first place I think it was not an organization already, but a movement will be successful, so to speak, if you put others or the need of others first. So I think he really only had the assistance in his focus, in his mind, and that's it. And therefore, towards this he worked. And I think these are the movements that will last. If you're not doing any hype around your personality or whatever it is, but I think here what he put, right, this neutrality, we help whoever that will be. If they are French, if they are German, if they are whatever it might be, we will help, just that. And I think this is very, very smart. Also to say in the first place, we put there volunteers. Why? Because if people are forced to help others and they don't want to, you have another scene, for helping, right? But if you're really convinced that you want to help, whatever this person might be, from skin, religion, whatever it is, then this will work. But if you would force people to do so, of course, I think today there are also people that have that for their living, but I think the first idea was to do this on a volunteer basis. And if this is the focus really, I think then this will have the support of the extra-physical team, and then more and more people will be attracted by that. And I think this is something that's was really great about seeing that, because in this video, I think they really managed to have this essence, to take that out, what it is all about and what is really the idea. And I think this will go on, or will last. And I think then there's something like this passing the stick, how do you say that, the relay to others, and then this work will go on. And because there's still a sense in it, it's not focused on a person or whatever it is, it's focused on a bigger goal, on a vision, and so on. And yeah, that's very, very impressive. And if you consider that this is also work where you put yourself at risk in an intraphysical sense, yeah, because if you go to a war place, of course, you are also at risk. My partner is working as a nurse, and he was said, okay, in a situation of war, what will they mostly do first? They will kill the person who helps the others, because then the possibility that the war will be successful in that sick way of thinking, that will be what they mostly will do. And I think that's really, it's somehow, yeah, it shows this, how can I say, this really sick way of thinking in this war. And I think that this is really a perfect example how you can move to a healthier way in order to deal with that. Yeah, the next place we visited, and might be also, I don't know, maybe a lighter topic, or I don't know. It was the Peace Garden that is in Geneva. And it is dedicated nowadays. In the beginning, it was founded earlier, but nowadays it's dedicated to Sérgio Vieira de Melo, sorry. And I think it's really a nice place, and it's not too far from his, how can I say, his workplace, or his place of, man würde sagen im Deutschen, Wirkungsstätte. Anna, maybe you can help me with the translation.
I don't know where he acted. I don't know. I don't know how it's Wirkungsstätte in English. Sorry.
And they also put the team that he worked with here by names, that also came to death in this attack, right? I don't know. Maybe Anna, you want to talk a bit more about it, because you studied him?
I started to study this personality, Sérgio Vieira de Melo, 1 year before he decimated. So in August 2002, I made a cosmogram out of a magazine which is called Veja, which is a very famous magazine in Brazil, where there was an interview with him. And I did not know about him before. So it was very interesting, because I took it out, the cosmogram from the magazine, and I put in big letters, Amparo, like helper. Mm-hmm. And he was still introphysical. This was before he gained his mission to go to Iraq. Mm. So this was very interesting. But then I let the cosmogram and did not start anymore. Did not study anymore. But then when he died, and then with the book of Samantha Power about him, his biography, and then it came up again, and I think several researchers had contact with him from Conscienciology and so on. And then I found this on one of my birthdays when I was in Brazil, and I looked up my old cosmograms, because when I moved to Mexico at that time, I did not have so much space, so I could not take all my cosmograms with me. So after a lot of years, I found this cosmogram, and I said, okay, I started to study him when he was still alive. And this person who decimated with him was his team. And when he gained this mission from George Bush, he really did not want to go there, the first place, to Iraq. He wanted to settle his life with his partner, Carolina. He wanted to work and live in New York. And so he said, okay, this will be my last mission, field mission. Afterwards, I will stay in New York. And everything was settled to have a smooth life. And then he, like in other projects he worked, he had the liberty, the freedom to put his stuff together. He could choose his stuff. So he had a big box of business cards, you know, where he took it out and he invited the person. Now I remember he worked well when I was in Timor-Leste, and then I had this motorista, or how do you say, the driver, and so he put his team together. So the fact that a lot of people died with him in this building when it was attacked, people he chose to work with, he invited to work with, a lot of them, is also a factor we have to take in mind, like interpretation, but also recomposition, I guess, because you pay some debt, you know, with the karmic debts when you were like a victim of these conditions. So I found that very interesting, because he valued a lot his team. He knew that he would never do any mission without a good team. So he was always praising the relationships. For him, the relationships with the person, it doesn't matter if he was a driver or if he was the UN Secretary General, was very important for him. So about this consciential aspect, that he knew that the consciousness makes a difference. And he was very, very easygoing with all people. He was not arrogant, even when he had a big career and so on. He was very Brazilian in a good way. So this was very interesting. And some of the people who worked with him over the years, they contributed to the biography. Samantha Fox, she was interviewing a lot of those people. So it's really worth to read the biography of Sérgio Vieira de Melo. If you have a possibility to read it in English, because it's English written, Samantha Power did it in English. So I don't remember the English name. I have it here. I could look it up. But in Brazilian, it's O Homem que Queria Salvar o Mundo. And in English, I think it's chasing the. Eduardo, could you look up? Poderia ver o título da biografia do Sérgio Vieira de Melo? Chasing the Flame, or
The Flame, I think, yes.
Yeah, something like that. So the titles are different. The titles are different. In Portuguese, it's a different translation of the English type. Yeah, and for me, it's a biography, very interesting biography.
I didn't understand.
And personality.
The name in English? Can you repeat, please?
Eduardo is looking it up. I will just confirm with you in some seconds. He's looking it up. I think Chasing the Flame. Just a moment. Just a moment. I cannot go out of here. We just go ahead and afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, and this is this peace garden right from another point of view or angle. Chasing the Flame, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to share regarding that place or the personality? Okay. My next topic I would like to propose or talk with you today was the International Day of Peace. It will, as every year, arise on...
I cannot hear you.
Sorry? No? You don't hear me?
I hear you, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Anna is something with the... No?
It's my audio. My headset did not work anymore. Sorry. Now I hear you when I take it out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, the topic is the International Day of Peace, and it will be like every year on 21st of September. And this year's statement or theme or motto, don't know how to say, is Together for Peace, Respect, Safety, and Dignity for All. And of course, there's also the connection to the topic of the Red Cross, for example, with the dignity, for example. This is also something that caught my attention, that this is something that is often plays an important role in order also to assist people well, that we have respect also for their dignity and respecting their personalities and so on. So this is the motto of the UN for this year. And I just put the link here in order for you to just look up more information and so on. Another project we also were talking about in the past related to this day is the Peace One Day project. And it's a project that tries for now 15 years to have one day of ceasefire globally. And I think the movement also increased with time, and what they have as motto is something that is really has an impact on me. Let it put me that way. They have this sentence, "Who will you make peace with?" And I think if we would connect these two topics, so on one hand, together for peace, so what would be the group aspect, and on the other hand, this "who will you make peace with?" So the responsibility of every one of us. I was thinking about if we would be able to find a kind of challenge from now on to that day maybe, or from that day on maybe 1 month or whatever we would choose, and to create such a challenge. Something that could be related to a personal research topic, some action that we can take really in our personal life. So thinking about, okay, who is it we need to make peace with for our group karmic balance or whatever it might be. And could be also something where we can make a kind of call also for others in the CCCI, for example, if they want to share us with in this challenge. So that was just a rough idea that came to my mind, and I thought maybe we can have a kind of brainstorming in order to see if we can develop something like that. And if you think it's a good idea, we can try to do that. Maybe something comes to your mind, or maybe we can think about it for, I don't know, several days and see if something comes to our mind, because I think it's always something, if you have an international day off, could be a good chance that you enter a kind of holothorcene and really can make something or do something out of it. So that was just my rough idea that I want to throw in the ball, right? And just to hear what you think about it, and if something comes to mind, or maybe later.
I think it's very interesting to start a project like this. What came to my mind while you were speaking was to put it together with the self-reflection of 5 hours technique that we have. Mm-hmm. And also it came to my mind that since we in conscientiology we start with self-research, for me it was like the first 5 hours I have to do that. Who will you make peace with? Answering it to me, if I still have to make peace with myself. So for me, the self-peace issue is a starting point. Mm-hmm. Where I think from that on, you gain more strength in order to spread this kind of makathosing. Mm-hmm. So this is what came to my mind when you were speaking, but I'm not It's not a project. It's just these two ideas, you know. So self-reflection technique of 5 hours, and for me personally to start with myself, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, to make a peace with someone, you don't need to have to be disagree with this one, yeah. Because when I'm start to think about with who don't come up, I don't know if I have some trouble with someone. It's possible that people have some trouble with me, but I'm with someone. It's you know, I just think about with how can I what can I do the way I don't know.
Mm.
You understand me?
Yes, yes. I think that this is also possible. As I understand this phrase, who will you make peace with? I think it doesn't exclude ourselves, right?
Yes,
And I think maybe, okay, I do not encounter every day Serenissimus, but most of the people I encounter day to day, they have conflicts with themselves, right? More or less. And so I think could be also something like this. Maybe making peace with yourself, maybe making peace with,
it's a good thought.
I don't know, an attitude you don't like, an action you took in the past, or whatever it might be. I think you can also really great connect this to past life research, for example. I think that could be also a good idea to make peace with your own past.
Okay.
With some, I struggle a lot with some of my weak traits. I'm not in peace with my weak traits.
Yes.
And since to change weak traits is a long distance target. But I'm so how do you say ungeduldig? I'm so anxious to change. When I really it bothers me that I still have this weak trait. So sometimes I have to just say, okay, I could not change this weak trait in the last 10 years 100%, but maybe 1% or 2%, or at least I make effort to change it. So when I said, who will you make peace with? A lot of this 5 hour technique of reflection will be my struggle with my weak traits. Where I trafares. Trasafar.
Okay.
So for me, this is like an approach that I need to do.
Okay, it's a great stuff. Really great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you think that if, for example, we try to have a conversation with someone, we have whatever conflict it might be, and that this also can help if we try at least to have a conversation with that person, with our personal or inner peace? So I think that this could also be connected, that sometimes maybe our inner conflict is that we maybe could not do the next step and move towards the person and say, okay, now let's take a coffee or whatever it might be. That is appropriate depending on the relationship and I don't know, several factors, of course. But sometimes I think that this is also something in me. So, and that's why I sometimes really love working with how can I say it? With the knowledge that life is just the time span we have. And in our day-to-day routine, we always have in our minds, more or less, something like, we still have time. We still have time to solve that. But sometimes I think, okay, why this postponing meeting that person, writing an email, or whatever it is? You know what I mean? So sometimes I really love working with this, how can I say? Maybe I can also say with this idea of only 1 year of intraphysical life, for example, because then you are more aware of these issues you have, the things you want to solve, the things that are important to you, for example, not always having this false belief that we still have time, right? And so sometimes I think I'm postponing too much all these things, and sometimes it's not taking too much action, it's not taking too much time to take this next step, but I'm avoiding it because of inner conflict, because of whatever it might be. And this is something where I sometimes think, maybe if I would be more courageous, just taking that next step, not thinking too much about it, okay, what might happen if the other person will reject or whatever it is, just trying to do something and not just staying in that comfort zone, for example. And so I thought maybe it would help to take an action, so helping me with this inner conflict as well. So not taking this direction, but the other direction. I don't know. So this is also something that I'm thinking about. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea if we think about it, and maybe also, I don't know, try to mature it a bit, and to think if we can start this, let's say, challenge on the 21st, maybe would be a good idea. And maybe until then we have time to mature the idea, and maybe until then we have some ideas that we really can create a kind of call for action for that day. So that would be my proposal. Because what I found in our 5 hours reflection challenge was that really some people really enjoyed it, and that they thought, because I think it took us to a more self-reflective, more self-research level, and exchanging the experience was also something that encouraged us mutually. So I think that could be something that we can take for that action too.
Yes, and if I remember right, some people who are not so frequently in the meetings also wanted to do it. So sometimes maybe for the college, maybe it's not the best time for them to meet because they are volunteers, and on Sunday, yeah. I mean, there's other activities, but still with these kind of projects, which you can do whenever you have time, you still connect to the Holothought of this college. Mm-hmm. You are still in line with the ideas and so on. So since we are a small group, maybe this kind of reactivation of something which already was very motivating for some of us, or the most. I think everyone gave a positive feedback. I don't remember any negative feedback. Mm-hmm. So maybe we could align things, join things, you know.
Yeah. And the other thing maybe we can talk about was the idea of developing the research. And Anna, we were talking already a bit about the topic, about developing the research in general. Maybe I share the thing why I think that we can try to develop something like this in group, because I started to read about a research a woman did here in German. Unfortunately, the how can I say, the book does not exist in English as far as I researched it. It's about introvision. So it's a technique where you can try to overcome your personal inner conflicts. And she's a researcher, and she really had a long-term research related to this topic. And I think what I read until now was very, very mature, and it helped a lot of people to overcome, or at least to deal with their inner conflicts in a really proper way. And I was impressed really by how she described how she developed this research. And in the beginning, she started I think in the late 60s or 70s, something about that. So it's really a lot of time she researched that. And she described a bit in her book how she developed this research. And now she really matured it. I don't know exactly how many students researched the methods. They teach the method at the university in Hamburg in Germany. And what I found interesting is how she really did that, how she developed it, and how she included students and other researchers in this topic. So what came to my mind was it would be interesting for us to discuss how we can really design research for our peace studies. First, thinking about what is our personal research topic, then maybe thinking about might there be a joint research topic for the group really, and if we have gained this or got this information together, how from there can we start to think about and to develop that? How can we really design this research? With which tools could we work? Which strategies for the research could we use? Because I think we really could mature that in a good way, so that the college per se would make a step to the next, I don't know, maybe you can call it the next level of research really. Because until now, I think it's something where we are not working together as a group in terms of research. And maybe if we would discuss more about our personal researches and see where's the connecting topic, or how can we connect the dots, so to say, in order to get a bigger picture, and in what direction do we want to go. Last time, for example, we discussed the topic, okay, are we more in the direction of pacifismology, or are we more in the direction of paciology, or should this be broad and just under one roof? So I think if we really could think about that, and starting with what is my personal interest, and for me personally it's more and more paciology, because I feel more attracted from this starting from within to the outside. And for me, this is the focus. But for other people, it might be the other way around, so that they come more from the outside to the inside. So I think there's no right or wrong. And the contrary, I think that people that might come more from the outside direction to the inside direction, and the other people that they might complement each other and bring their things together and develop something completely new from there. Because I think if we consider that we had this topic in our intermissive course, maybe everyone had a specialty. And here we come together now, maybe in this college, and we think about, okay, I have this topic and I have this topic. And I think if we would reflect more on, okay, what is my specialty and what is the connection to, for example, Yatra's topic or Anne-Kathrin's topic, for example, or the other people that are not present here today. So maybe with time, we will see the bigger picture of the group, really. And from there, I think we could really develop the speciality on a more multidimensional level, so to say. Yeah, that was my idea on that. And I would like to discuss that starting here and maybe taking it to a bigger group also. Yeah. And would be interesting, of course, to hear your ideas on that.
Yeah, I think this self-research or personal research leading to then a joint research, I think this is very important. I think this step has to be done. At the moment, I don't think that we as a group already have enough researchers in order to say, okay, we have now a database of different personal researchers and let's see which is the mother thousand of the group. Because if we have at least like 5 or 6 engaged researchers with several topics, I would say we find like the mother thousand. At the moment, I don't see that we have this permanent research yet. And if you permit me to do an analogy to the College of Pararebonology, which you're already also part of, we had this very same problem. Not that we had a less quantity of person, but we have a lot of people at the college, but then very few persons with a personal research topic of pararebonology. This is also due to the complexity of the issues. It's because pararebonology always starts in extraphysical, and you have to look at the intraphysical effect and to start to get hypotheses to the extraphysical. So if you're not really a parapsychic, very evolved person, it's really difficult for you to start. So I think we in peace research, we don't have this big problem that it's too complex, because there are a lot of peace researchers and we can look from the intraphysical side or approaches and so on, or very like I started with places, just visit places. I mean, of intraphysical peace, holothocenes was a very rough approach, but it wasn't what I could do at that moment. So what helped us a lot, and I think which will bring us to another level in the pararebonology group, is to study the treatise Homo sapiens Urbanizatus together, which we are now doing since January. We will still until December, maybe January, we will have that group. And just today we had another study. So we do it like this: 1 hour of the time we talk about the last section we all read. You know, we do it in a very technical way. We always take the same section, and we have some person who makes an Excel sheet to see if we are in the meeting, to discuss if we had read 100%. If you're not, you put 80% or how many, you know. And today I think we had 18%, so we have never less than 18 or so. So this is very, very important, because I think this gives us strength and cons of the specialty pararebonology, so that all people which are formerly researcher in the college can at least have some idea about which will be their personal research. Because until now we see that 4 or 5 people have their research or more or less defined, but the rest not. And then it's very heterogeneous. It's not really good. So it's better, I think, by reading the treaties, we bring everyone of a good level, because we discuss what we did not understand in the chapters and so on. So I would say, since for this subdiscipline, Homo sapiens, we have the Homo sapiens pacificus also, we should, not at the short term, but maybe on the medium term, look at if we can do that also. I know we have the language barrier, but if we have like 4 or 5 persons maybe which are Portuguese speakers, maybe we could do like some sharing, or we all read it, and then in one meeting I do like a small summary, then in the next meeting maybe Yatra does the summary, just to get the mother theme of the section. Because for me the Homo sapiens Pacific is so interesting. Not without reading the Homo sapiens, we were not said this before, because you have to understand something of pararibonology in order to understand the pacifismology, I guess. But the Homo sapiens Pacificus is a very special book. So the sections and the order of Thothemes, and how he approaches, how the author approaches pathology, extreme pathology, and then he goes to the extreme therapeutic point at the end, which is the biggest section of Homo sapiens serenissimus, which are the only Homo sapiens pacificus which exist. As long as we are not Homo sapiens serenissimus, we are not Homo sapiens pacificus. So for me, this was a mega coin, mega paracoin, you know, falling, you know, dropping, you know. So maybe we could think about that, Regina, to look if we could find other persons in order to start with this. I was surprised when I launched the idea last year, more than 1 year ago, at the college, to read all together, because I sensed there were some people who had a total different definition of pararibonology than I have. And then so many people wanted to do that. And then we still had more people from IAPC, people who also wanted to study at the same time and do the marathon. So this was such a nice output for me. And for me, every meeting is very motivating. And I see how it helps when we study together. We have the same section, and there's a really study group. So for me, since we have these 2 treaties, in these 2 subdisciplines, I think we could think of something like this, because this will give us the fundaments of conscientiology approach, which we have already for pacifismology or paciology. Maybe we could embrace such a big project, and just to check with the others which are in our list the viability to do it, and maybe to, you know, maybe, like I said, once I do a synthesis, then the next time another Portuguese person, and then we just also tape it, and not, you know, not obliging to do it formally by writing also, because this takes a lot of time. But since it's fresh in your mind when you read we do it in a 2 weeks rhythm, you know. Then normally I just take the book with me, and when we start the meeting, I have a list of things, or I just, you know, in the book I paint the things that I find interesting, and then we come together to the mother theme of this chapter or of this section. We take sections, which are several sections, and I think if we have like 3 persons more, like 5 Portuguese speakers, I think we would be able to do such a project. What do you think? Yatra, would you embrace this challenge?
I find fantastic. It's a really great start.
Okay.
This project, when you must start alone and then you can discussion together, it's in grow our Cantonese, our Cantonese.
Our wisdom or our knowledge.
Yes, the knowledge.
Yeah.
I find so it's a really great idea. I'm agree with you.
Great.
Totally.
Yeah, I really like the idea also in the other college. Of course, for me is the language problem there, but I thought it's really great if you debate upon the details and the topics and so on. And I'm really happy to see that this continues and that it's moving on. So this is really great. Yeah. Let's see if we can find people that will be part of the project. I think that could be really a great thing. So that was my initial question: what will we need in order to develop that? And I think this is an excellent idea. What also came to my mind was maybe something like, do we need something in general information, how to do research, for example? I'm not sure about that. If this would also maybe be a good idea in order to have a kind of, how can I say, Leitfaden, something like
a guideline.
Yes, thank you. Like a guideline. How can we develop a research in general? So in order also maybe to write something about it and so on. So the more or less the technical side of doing such research. Maybe that would be also a good idea in order to give this information to the people that might feel a bit more insecure. How do I write an article or something like that?
Yes.
I think that could also help. Can you think of anything else what we could kind of prepare in order to make it easier for us as a group to come to our personal research, to group research?
At the moment, I don't have any other ideas. I think studying the book together is like a personal research and then a group research also. For example, we always start also to for example, say, oh, for me, this section was very hard to read. I could read like barely 4 pages and that I got really, knocked down. And only 2 days afterwards, I could not get the rhythm. And so I think this is also a kind of already research, because you talk about the energies and so I think it's a personal and a joint research, how I react to the reading of the book. And but I think there are a lot of approaches which we can go, but at the moment I don't have any other idea.
Maybe something like also taking into consideration something like self-observation. You mean something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know, maybe I can try to write things down, and maybe if you guys have some more ideas during the next days or whatever, so maybe we can also exchange so that we can put this together and inform the group about it. And yeah.
Great. If you could outline something, for me right now everything is so okay, but I think to launch this idea to the others, because we had a lot of people in the list that they still want to receive information. So maybe we just look how they react to see which project we could start, or if they have other ideas. Yeah.
Okay.
And then on the long-term run, I would just to inform you guys that we now have already the date and the place where we will do the encounter or the meeting of intermissivists 2018. This is in, I think you know already, in Strasbourg in November, 9th, 10th and 11th of November. And since all ICs will be, or at least we will try to get all ICs on the boat, but I always will ask to have space also for the college. I think they are as important as the ICs, so that we think on the long term what would be contribution to this encounter. Because since we are in Europe studying peace, I think we could also contribute with not such a small part only, maybe a bigger part. For example, even if it's not during the 3 days, because maybe we have a lot of competition of other ICs, but maybe we want to invite persons to study some places when they already Europe, because they will not come only 3 days, but maybe we want to do a list of peace places in order to suggest to them, if you come to Europe, go to Geneva, go to Hague, go here, we have peace places. We just give them some information so we can enrich their trip to Europe. I feel like we can be like the Cicerone, how do you say, Gastgeber? I don't know in English. Host. We could be like a anonymous host, you know, like in the background, but like delivering information about for the persons without doing pressure also, but to give them a manual if you're interested to come to Europe already with the peace vision, or with this subdiscipline which we are studying in this college, where we have some participants of Europe who already do this and this research. I think that would be a nice contribution. I don't know, just to do a brainstorming in one of the next meetings to see what we can offer as small college, but small but fine college, so that people come also with this vision to Europe, the peace vision.
Yeah, sounds good. So let's put this on the agenda, right? Okay, guys, any other topics? Okay, if this is not the case, so thank you again for attending and sharing your experiences and ideas, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you for organizing, Regina, and very, very nice your PowerPoint presentation. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Nice pictures.
Thanks, guys, and welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, girls. Bye.
Thank you all. Have a nice week.